Good morning, Austin, K-Town, Pflugerville, Dallas, H-Town, and over the pond. That's right, folks. Wherever you may be listening, this is the Hardge Knocks Life on Sports Radio, AM 1300, The Zone. It's a motivated Monday edition of the Hardge Knocks Life. That's right. The Texas basketball programs get big wins over the weekend. Football free agency starts off with a bang. The brackets are about to get formed. And Texas football camp is just over a week away. And the Rangers and Wyatt Langford, they're going to have to come to some decisions. But before we get into all of that, I am your boy, Mike Hardge, and joining me, as she always does, is the lovely Shannon B. Sweeney. But you know her as the salty one. Good morning, Salty.
Hard you threw me with the across the pond, but I do recall your son, who's quite the soccer player, is overseas right now.
That's right. That's
in
right.
London.
That's right. That's right.
Playing soccer, and everyone in your family but you went.
Yeah, I'm dedicated to my craft over here.
And I'm a little confused because of the daylight saving, so I barely know what time it is here. I think they're probably 6 or 7 hours ahead over there.
They're actually, I believe.
So are they listening or are they having lunch?
They're both. They're listening while they're having lunch. That's why I had to say
I'm
over
sure
the pond.
people are looking at them like, Americans.
On their phones all the time, doing
phones.
things. It is.
None of us want to hear about the American football.
They are 5 hours ahead of us.
Five, okay.
5 hours ahead of us. So it's 12 over there. They're doing a tour today and going to the Shrek Museum.
I'm sorry?
The Shrek Museum today.
They have a Harry Potter museum over there. I have not heard of the Shrek Museum.
Yeah, they're definitely doing that. I was awakened this morning on my way in. I was driving in and they were like, oh, top of the morning to you. It's like, yeah, it's up. It's early over here.
Shrek Museum pics or it didn't happen. That's all I'm going to say.
Well, you don't have to worry about that. You know we got plenty of pics. But it is a big, big weekend on the 40 acres as well. The Texas men's basketball team came in and handled their business against OU, sweeping OU this year in basketball. And it was an impressive showing for Dylan Dessou and, of course, Tyrese Hunter. Yes, that Tyrese Hunter that has had some struggles earlier in the year. But one thing's for sure, that young man is very, very confident in himself. And the way that they performed against Oklahoma, Salty, it was very impressive. The team, it was senior day. So it was senior day, and Dylan Dessou and Brock Cunningham, they were recognizing all the players. Max Asmus did his thing as well. But it was all about what we got a chance to see from Tyrese Hunter. Tyrese Hunter was balling out of control, and what he was able to do was score 30 points and just really, really show out. And Coach RT and Tyrese got a chance to talk about it.
Yeah, for sure, Corey. When we've got, Tyrese playing at that level, I said to our team, I said, Tyrese set the tone.
I was just pumped up all the way around. For me, it just gives me confidence. Like I said, my confidence never goes away.
Watching him score the ball the way he did, it was not only fun to watch, but it gave me a little bit of rest as I was a little tired today, just trying to recover.
You can affect the game so many ways other than scoring. I feel like, my assist game, I really loved it. Just talking about my free throws, I kind of struggled this year about free throws. The guys be giving me hell because I talk so much about it. But, getting to the free throw line, being confident. So
if you get that other guard scoring like that to go along with Max and Dessou, they're elite.
Tonight he came out, he's very confident, and he played at a very high level. And when he playing that way, he does give us some separation in terms of how good we could be.
And what was the entire conversation most of the season for this Texas basketball team? If Dylan Dessou and Max Asmus are off, who's going to be able to step up and help this team out? That's who it was. It was Tyrese Hunter. We've been wanting it. We've heard all year that his defense is going to set him apart. His defense are going to be the things that is going to lead this team. But we also needed him to hit the scoring. He was 9 of 13, 3 of 4 from three-point land, and 9 of 9 from the free throw line. And it was funny because the mics caught a conversation between Dylan Dessou and Tyrese before Coach Terry got there, and they were giving each other a hard time. And Dylan was like, hey, you think you got your free throw percentage up to at least 71% now? So it was a good banter between these guys. And Tyrese started laughing because, as he said, he's been talking about his free throw shooting. And you would think, as a guard, That would be your one strong suit. You should be able to shoot the basketball from the free throw line. It's going to be important during this tournament run as they get ready for Big 12 tournament that starts on Wednesday. And of course, you start to look at this basketball team and say, are they ready for the postseason? I know it's an important move. I know it's that time of year where you expect to see everybody clicking, but you also got to look at what Dylan Dessou was able to bring. Think about this. Dylan Dessou is now leaving the University of Texas. He's a local kid, Hendrickson High School. Shout out to the Hawks. That's where my son goes. And you start to think about his legacy and what he's been able to do at this university. He's a kid that wanted to come to the University of Texas, but he thought he was going to be playing football at the University of Texas. So for those guys to go out there and play on senior night, play healthy for Dylan Dessou, I mean, it was an important move for him. But here's something that you didn't know. Dylan went around and shook everybody's hand after the game. Every fan that stuck around. He went over and dapped them up, and he even talked about that.
Yeah, Dylan, for you, I saw you after the game taking every picture that you could with the students. What was today like for you emotionally, just knowing this was your last time in the mood?
Yeah, it's sad, man. But I knew that this would be the last time I walked around with the fans. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody that asked for a picture, everyone that asked for an autograph got one, because I couldn't say, next game I got you. So I just want to make sure everyone got their chance.
He said, I couldn't tell you next game I got you because everybody got their chance. But it was outstanding for him. I'm glad to see it. And I look forward to the rest of the tournament because remember last year, he was the one that really, really got it going for the Texas basketball team in the postseason and made us think that we had a chance.
Oh, yeah.
He had us on the ropes. He was like, yes, we got a chance. And then he came up with another injury. And you're like, no.
Well, how do you like our chances, Hardge? Because Texas earns the number 7 seed in the Big 12 tournament. They'll take on number 10, Kansas State. Now, Texas did beat Kansas State in their one matchup in the regular season, 62-56. But it wasn't a great night for either team shooting-wise. Texas ended up winning on the boards, and as we've noted throughout the season, when they win on the boards, they typically win the game. Do you like this matchup for them as they this is the game, by the way, Wednesday, March 13th, 6 o'clock tip?
Yep. I look for them to win this game. I think that this is the right time, the right strides. This is the moment where Texas starts to really find their groove. And, you know, we talk about this all the time. When you get into the postseason, there is no tomorrow. So all hands on deck. You have to be dialed in. You have to be focused. And you got to believe in your scouting. You guys have played each other already. This is a wounded K-State team. Let's not forget the run that K-State was on last year, where they went deep into the NCAA tournament. They had some ball players that was really getting after it. Well, now it's not the same team, and there's been some adjustments that have been had. So I look for Texas to win this game and look forward for the matchup in the second round. Speaking of the basketball awards that was given out, Texas had Dylan Dessou as the most improved player in the Big 12. He got that award yesterday. We got Max Asmus, who was named to the second team for the all Big 12 team. And Jamal Shedd, the young man from Maynard, Texas, 6'1" guard, was named Big 12 Player of the Year, and he was named Defensive Player of the Year. That's why U of H is number 1 in the nation. We'll talk about the women's basketball team just a little bit. But coming up next, there were some moves that were made in the NFL. Man, quarterbacks have got jobs. That's what I'm talking about. And one of them, I kept saying this was going to be the place for him. So I'm excited for him. We'll talk about it when we get back right here on the Hardge Knocks Life on Sports Radio, AM 1300, The Zone.
Want to send a message to Hardge and Salty? Text the word Texas, followed by your message to 81530. Standard data and message rates may apply. Now back to the Hardge Knocks Life on Sports Radio, AM 1300, The Zone.
That's right. Welcome back to the Hard Knocks Life. We started the show talking about the Texas men's basketball team. We will talk about the women a little bit later, and we will hear from Vic Schaefer. But right now, there was a lot of moves that happened over the weekend when you start to break down the NFL and the quarterback carousel. And speaking of the quarterback carousel, if you go over to our poll question on AM 1300 The Zone on Twitter, we left the poll out there for you to place your vote. Which quarterback did you see make the best move on this quarterback carousel? And to me, there's been no doubt about it. It was Russell Wilson. This was something that you and I've been saying it the entire week, Salty. I kept saying this is the best place for Russell Wilson. Number one, you have, for those that don't know, Russell Wilson has decided he plans to sign with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And this was the place that I thought would be a perfect fit for him. Number one, they've got a good running game. They got good offensive linemen, and they got some up-and-coming wide receivers, number one. Number two, Arthur Smith was terrible in Atlanta as a head coach, but he's a damn good offensive coordinator. So I believe this is going to be a good matchup. And last but not least, you are led by one Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin, no nonsense, winning coach. And I believe that this is a situation where Kenny Pickett, who is probably upset right now, he's in there. But Kenny, what you got to understand, nobody else would take you.
He's using those small hands to wipe his tears.
Exactly. You are not the person that you think you are in this situation. And a lot of times the reason I say things like that is because you were thrown into the fire. You thought it was going to be easy. Then it got tough. Then you couldn't throw any touchdown passes, and everything was terrible. The offensive coordinator ended up getting fired. They had to use somebody else, and now you bring in an experienced offensive coordinator. But the job is not just going to be given to Russell Wilson. So if I'm Kenny Pickett, I'm in there for the battle. That is what's going to happen. I'm going to come out here, and I'm going to battle with you and make things happen. Also, we're going to have an opportunity to see what George Pickens can do with a quarterback that can actually throw the ball down the field. George Pickens is one of the most athletic wide receivers in the NFL, but he was inconsistent, and the maturity level has to grow. And I think that's where Mike Tomlin is at his best, bringing up these young players and getting them focused. The talent is there. It's all about the focus and what are you going to do? And let's not forget, too, a lot of people want to say that Russell's past his prime. He probably is, but he's a lot better than some of these other quarterbacks that are in the league right now. And he put up great numbers last year. I don't know why everybody wants to look at him and say he didn't do well last year. Go back and watch some of the games. He actually did well. The thing I didn't like, obviously, Sean Payton. Sean Payton, to me, was the problem. Look at Russell's time in Denver. The first-year head coach, first-year offensive coordinator, they pretty much let him do whatever he want, and he didn't have experienced guys to run the offense with. So for me, he's going to a place where, number one, Tomlin's not going to put up with the craziness. Number two, he understood what the assignment is. And Salty and I were talking about this about Mitch Morse. He wants to go to a place where he can try to win. And the Pittsburgh Steelers with TJ Watt on the defensive side, don't forget that. If he can come back healthy, this has an opportunity to be an outstanding team. Just so you know, too, in his first 12 seasons in the NFL, he threw for 344 touchdowns. That's Russell. He's done really, really good. He's a good quarterback. Just put him in the right place.
Are you done?
I'm not done. So when you start to look at the Steelers, I'm not even a Steelers fan. I'm a Cowboys fan. But I'm
you don't want them getting too many more Super Bowls.
No, I don't. But I do want Russell to be okay.
All right.
And I think he should be.
I see your Russell, but I think you kind of alluded to it. He's at the end of his run.
So what does that mean?
And seeing what Pittsburgh did and did not do this year compared to, and for the sake of our poll question, where we have Russell Wilson and we have Mac Jones going to Jacksonville and we have Baker Mayfield, who is leading our poll right now.
Of course, everybody's in Austin.
Tampa Bay. It's not that it's Austin. It's that they got Mike Evans still. It's that they made
we knew that was
a better attempt at the playoff run than the Pittsburgh Steelers, and that team seems a lot more intact, especially when you're keeping the quarterback you had from last year and not pairing up a new quarterback with those wide receivers. I think Tampa is winning this right now with their $100 million man in Baker Mayfield. It pains me to say it because I'm not, team Baker necessarily.
I'm not team
options,
Baker either. I'm not team Baker either. But for Baker Mayfield, this was outstanding because he bet on himself.
You think he'll be back in Progressive commercials?
I don't know. I think he's
living
doing
at the
really
stadium,
well.
living on the boat.
I think he's doing well enough right now that he's in a good spot. But yeah, there's no doubt he won because he bet on himself and he got the dub. That's outstanding. This deal is a 3-year deal with $50 million guaranteed and up to $115 million that he could possibly make on this deal. But again, yes, Mike Evans only signed back there because they told him they were going to get a deal done with Baker. Mike was going to go somewhere. I wanted Mike to go to Pittsburgh too. I wanted him to go there. And I'm not even a Pittsburgh fan. That's the other part about this. I just know that Mike Tomlin, who everybody was up against, everybody was thinking he was going to get fired. Remember that he walked off the stage when the lady asked him, "Are you going to sign your extension?" He walked off on her.
Gone.
See ya. So for me, I think that you're right. Baker did his thing, but I believe the winner on this one is the Pittsburgh Steelers and Russell Wilson. Now, here's the other part of this. Mac Jones. Who? Mac Jones. He is finally getting out of New England.
Who would have thought anyone would ever say that about leaving New England?
Well, if you saw how everything went and what they did to that man, you talk about confidence being shattered. You come in and you bring in 2 defensive coordinators and say, these are going to be my offensive coordinators, Matt Patricia and Joe Judge, 2 defensive-minded guys and special team guys, and try to tell him how to play quarterback.
Who are only back because they failed at their head coaching jobs.
100%. 100%. So then you start to look at this and you say, well, why in the world would Mac Jones feel like he wasn't being helped? Because he wasn't. And you look at how bad the season was. We kept giving Bill Belichick that pass and kept saying, oh, well, Bill will get it fixed. Bill didn't get it fixed, and Bill ended up leaving. So Mac Jones now is going to Jacksonville, where I believe Doug Peterson can resurrect Mac Jones's career. He's going to be with an actual quarterback who's a head coach that has been an offensive coordinator, where he's going to work, and he's going to be in the same film room with a Trevor Lawrence. And I believe this is going to make Trevor Lawrence better because he's going to be pushed. But this is the ironic thing about this move in particular.
Mm-hmm.
They were both drafted in the same draft in 2021. Trevor Lawrence was the #1 overall pick, and Mac Jones was number 15 by New England. But in that same draft, they went 1, 2, and 3. Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, who is about to find a new home as well, and Trey Lance. They all went 1, 2, and 3. Now, Mac Jones went 15, but do you know who number 11 was in that draft?
Is that the 2 a year?
Nope. No. Justin Fields, who's about to be looking for a new home as well. But let me tell you who was drafted in between those guys. Kyle Pitts, Atlanta. Jamar Chase, Cincinnati. Jalen Waddle, Miami. Penny Sewell, the offensive lineman for Detroit. J.C. Horn and Patrick Surtain and Devontae Smith. All of those other guys have been doing well, except for Kyle Pitts, because he had terrible quarterback situation. But let's see. That is why I believe Atlanta's next move, Kirk Cousins. How would you feel if Kirk Cousins went to Atlanta? He's supposedly looking for a house there.
He's supposedly, though, that's for rumor. You know, Atlanta's had a rough go. I mean, I think if they get a guy like Kirk Cousins, they have to play the we're all in right now, because Kirk is an older guy, right? He's bounced around a lot. He's also
Made a ton of money.
Made a ton of money. He's had a
Ton
lot
of
of
money.
injuries, and he's coming back from one right now, and he's probably scaring teams like Atlanta when he's at his kid's birthday party and he's up there trying to do the high ropes, trying to show off how great his Achilles is right now after that injury. But I love the juxtaposition of it. I think it's kind of funny. Kirk Cousins in Atlanta and the black and red. But I'd take it. I think he's their best option right now to get someone experienced.
Unless they get Justin Fields. I would love to see Justin Fields in a place where he has an offensive line, he has Bijan Robinson, and he has weapons on the outside.
So you truly think for him it's been coaching an organization?
Oh, for sure. You can talk to Chicago fans and they will tell you that. I've talked to a ton of them. No, they boo the offense. They are old school. They still believe that they don't have to score points to win the game because they think that they got the Bears defense of old with Buddy Ryan back there. They're not walking through that door. Urlacher's not playing middle linebacker for you. You have to go out and actually score in the new NFL. And they have been sitting in the dark ages and thinking that it's, monsters of the midway. No, it's not that anymore. It's not that at all. So it is going to be an interesting offseason as this continues to unravel. We're still trying to figure out what's going to happen with other quarterbacks. We just talked about Kirk Cousins. Are we looking at another draft, whether the quarterbacks may go 1, 2, and 3 again? Because New England obviously is going to draft a quarterback now that they got rid of Mac Jones. So, and you already know that Caleb Williams is the number 1 quarterback on the board. So he's going to Chicago, which is why they're trying to see if they're going to make a move. And here's the funny thing. There's no market for Justin Fields. That's what the rumor is. But if I'm a coach or an organization and I know you have to move him, why am I going to accommodate you?
Yeah, get him at the deal.
Right. Like you're asking for, we want multiple draft picks. Why? You're going to have to keep him. And then what are you going to do? Because now you got the competition that's going to be there. That is why when all of these conversations start to happen across the NFL and you start to hear and see these different deals that are going on, you start thinking to yourself and you're like, oh, why would I go out of my way to do that if I know you have to deal him? That's the funny thing to me.
The game within the game.
Right. So all these stories and all these people breaking all this news, it's like, well, if I'm another organization, why would I try to rush to make that happen? Because you have to make a move, just like right now. Everybody's looking at Pittsburgh and like, Russ at Pittsburgh. Well, you know that Denver's paying $38 million of his $39 million contract. So to me, Pittsburgh won on that because you're getting him at a minimal. Is Russ going out there? And to your point, Salty, he's at the end of his run. But Tom Brady was at the end of his run and got to a good team and things happened.
Russell wants 2 more in 5 years.
Well, a lot of work to be done if he's going to try to do it in the AFC. That's the other part too. That AFC North that he's in, that's a tough division because every one of the teams in that division were above 500. It's not going to be a slouch when you go up against Joe Burrow if he can stay healthy. You're going to end up going against Baltimore. That's tough. And you got Cleveland, Deshaun Watson. What? I don't know about that. Let's see what happens. When we come back, we're going to talk about the Texas baseball team as they made that trip to Lubbock. Started off with a bang, got a little sketchy, but then they came back and did the doggone thing. And we'll also talk about the Texas Rangers and what is their possible move on opening day. Right here on the Hard Knocks Life on Sports Radio, AM 1300, The Zone.
Every day I'm hustling.
Back at it on the Hardge Knocks Life. Have your voice heard on the show by using the iHeart Radio app TalkBack feature. Now here's Mike and Shannon.
He's been hustling every day of his life. He's been hustling for you on the Hardge Knocks Live, 7 to 9 a.m. here on Sports Radio AM 1300 The Zone. And he hustles even harder in the featured Hardge Knocks Life segment, which begins right now with one Mr. Mike Hartbaugh.
Appreciate that, Salty. Appreciate that as always. And we had a good conversation about the quarterback position and what's going on across the NFL and what team is actually going to have some success. But right now I want to talk about Texas baseball. Texas baseball had a rough week last week, and we were talking about it as we headed into this week, what we should expect. Texas Longhorns traveled to Lubbock to take on Texas Tech at the very beginning of Big 12 play. Friday night, unbelievable night. 22 runs, 20 hits. People were scoring from all over. 2 grand slams in a game.
They were big, man.
They was trying to come out and get excited and, pay back some things for the week that they had where they went 0-4. But then Saturday, tough matchup. They end up losing 7-2. And then Sunday, the game that I believe was the most important game for this Texas baseball team. And the reason why that game was so important is because of the momentum in which you needed to continue to believe that your squad is going to be okay. Because if that game would not have gone the way that it did yesterday, and it looked like it was going to be rough because Texas Tech got out early in the first 2 innings, or in the first inning, and they were already leading 3-0. But then Max Ballou came up in the second inning and hit a 2-run home run down the left field line to make it all even. And then all of a sudden they scored again. Texas Tech scored again. And you start thinking, okay, what is this team going to do? Because the main part about it for us as Texas Longhorn baseball fans, it's the pitching. What is the pitching going to look like? You started Charlie Hurley. He gave up 4 hits with 3 earned runs. And then Tanner Witt comes in and he does the same. And it wasn't sharp. He threw 38 pitches, faced 10 batters, but he wasn't sharp. But he gave you 2 innings. Then Chase Loomis, coming off of an injury, got a chance to go out there. He walks 2 guys. So you're begging for some help. And eventually they did get their help in the back of the bullpen with Easton Tumas being able to do it, and Gage Bohm closing out the game, going 4 innings. But again, this is a moment. It's a windy field out there in Lubbock. You know you're going to have a lot of home runs. Max Ballou with a big day yesterday, 4 for 5, drove in 3 runs. And then you also look at Peyton Powell. He hit another home run. So Peyton Powell is the guy that is running this thing right now for the Texas Longhorns. But again, you have to look at the teams and what this all breaks down with. This team has to be more consistent on the bump. They'll get another opportunity tomorrow. They'll play Incarnate Word right here on AM 1300, The Zone, 6:30 first pitch. But you start to look at this team, and this weekend they will play Washington, non-conference, but a Pac-10 school. And you have to be able to stay focused and build and continue to build. They're going to be home for a while starting Tuesday. I think they have like 8 games at home, 9 games at home. So it's a big week for the Texas Longhorn baseball team. It's a good run, some stiff competition. Next week they have Air Force. Air Force, to me, I had them last week. They're not as good as the former Air Force teams that we've seen. Now, they could be better by the time they get here, not doubting that. But for Texas to be one of those teams that you look at in the Big 12 and say they are going to be able to make a run, they have to become more consistent on the bump and make sure that they're throwing strikes. Because if you can't throw strikes, it's going to be a long, long season for you. And like everyone else, they continue to look at this team and they're like, is this the team that can get to Omaha? That's all everybody cares about.
Right.
Is this Texas Longhorn team going to be built for Omaha? As the seasons go on and the season goes on, you're going to have to look at it. U of H is a team that nobody talked about. Well, they're sitting at 3-0 already in the conference. You have Oklahoma sitting at 3-0 in the conference. The team to beat, is TCU, but TCU, they had a tough weekend. They went 1-2. And I believe that TCU, to me, has been a little bit overrated. They've skated by in some of the games that they played early this year.
Mhm.
It's going to be a difficult run, but I know that their pitching staff is going to be better. Baylor's not very good, so you don't have to worry about them. But across the Big 12, like basketball, this is going to be one of those conferences that anybody can win. Anybody's going to be in that situation right there. So good run by the Texas Longhorn baseball team. They will come back home tomorrow, as I said, 6:30 first pitch. I'll be on the call tomorrow with Roger Wallace, so I'll be excited to see what this team is going to be able to do at home. Let's talk Texas Rangers, Salty, because the Texas Rangers are putting themselves in a weird situation to where they're going to end up not having a kid that is absolutely tearing the cover off of the baseball in one Wyatt Langford. Now, this is a guy that I believe should be. He was the number 4 overall draft pick last year. A lot of people thought he was going to go number 1. He's having a great spring. But the question is he going to be able to make the club heading into opening day?
Wyatt Langford has had an unbelievable spring so far. Good enough for him to break camp with the big league team?
Man, I believe the answer there is yes. He has gone out and, in my view, won a job. Look at the quality of his at-bats, the numbers that he's put up. At the start of spring training, the conversation from the Rangers front office was that the path for him to win a job was there and how advanced of a player he has been since his college days. Well, the numbers suggest he can do it, and the at-bat quality, the numbers he's put up, to me, affirm that he belongs on their opening day roster. So I'll say this. At this moment here, it's still the 8th of March, but I would be surprised. I would be surprised if Wyatt Langford is not on the opening day roster for the Texas Rangers. Here's how this ball club could look. Of course, we know Seager coming back off of injury as well. Look how deep this team could be. And it just shows, and Harold, we talk about this a lot with the draft. With these advanced hitters, I would put Dylan Cruz with Washington in the same conversation. It used to be that teams wanted to wait a year or two before they promoted you to the show. But now with all the high-level baseball these guys play, Harold, there is no sense waiting. When they show that they're ready, put them up in the major leagues. And I believe that's precisely what the Rangers are going to do with Wyatt Langford.
Well, I think also we cannot forget the CBA changed everything too.
And that's what I'm talking about. When you get this kind of opportunity, the way that he's been able to play, and this was a guy that was just drafted last year, went to the minor leagues, went 3 levels. And he is so talented. And every scout that I ever talked to about this young man, they told me he could go into the big leagues right now because his approach, his makeup, and his work ethic made it for him to be that guy. I've been very impressed with him. And if they can get him into that lineup with that young talent that they have, Evan Carter, he was a huge contributor for them to win the World Series last year. He was a rookie. He played in Round Rock, I think, for like 10 games possibly, and went up to the big leagues and did a great job. You start looking at Leody Tavares, the great center fielder. He's matured as well. And you put Wyatt Langford out there to play left field, he is going to be a guy that might win Rookie of the Year. And I might put a little something on it just because of the fact I've been very impressed with the way that he's gone about it. And if you listen to me for years, you know there's always a guy that I'm looking at throughout the year that I think is going to be special. Bobby Witt Jr. was one of them. Pena, the shortstop for the Houston Astros, and now Wyatt Langford is going to be a guy that Major League Baseball is going to be talking about. When we come back, we're going to continue the conversation. Bracketology. Yeah, I don't know much about it, but I know that the Big 12 has a lot of teams that are supposed to be in it. When we come back right here on the Hardge Knocks Life on Sports Radio, AM 1300, The Zone.
We're back to the Hardge Knocks Life on Sports Radio AM 1300 The Zone with Hardge and Salty. Follow the crew on Twitter at Mike Hardball Hardge and at Shannon B. Sweeney.
We them boys. We're trying to figure it out if we them boys. That's right. The Texas men's basketball team got a big win against Oklahoma. Now they're getting ready for Big 12 tournament play. And Salty, Joe Lunardi is a guy that really starts to dive in. If you listen to our man Craig Way from 2 to 5 every day right here on AM 1300 The Zone, he's been talking about that particular thing, the bracketology of Joe Lunardi. And Joe Lunardi's been pretty accurate for the most part throughout his career. As of right now, the Big 12 will have 9 teams that will be participating in the NCAA tournament. I haven't seen, they're not even part of the last in, last out, first 4 where they play those pre games. They're not even doing that. So I've been very impressed with the way that the Big 12 and Coach Rodney Terry has not shied away from the fact about the schedule that Texas played because of that one run where they were they played 6 straight ranked opponents and went 3-3 during that time. And then you start to break down, okay, how many wins did they have in the quads and how's this all going to play itself out? Well, to me, you start looking at this Texas basketball team and where they have them seated. Right now, they have them seated as the number 9 seed in the Western part of the bracket, which means that their first game would be against Gonzaga. Hey, they would be.
I was just going to ask you what the seed number is because my math is, the daylight savings and all of the things are messing me up. But
Gonzaga would be 8. And so they would
Zags,
play.
huh?
They would play the winner of. I'm just talking about hypothetically right now.
I think I know where my money's going.
It would be Tennessee. Tennessee would be the number 1 seed in that particular region. So you start looking at how the region is going to play out. And again, this isn't etched in stone. This is just how it's been broken down. But you look at Purdue would probably get a number 1 seed. UConn, obviously, your pick, UConn. University of Houston would get a number 1 seed, and so would Tennessee. So those are the number 1 seeds, and you start breaking it all down. Then you start looking at some of the other teams. North Carolina beat Duke again, beat them twice this year. Baylor's had a good run. Marquette with Shaka Smart, and Arizona would be the number 2 seeds as they start to look around. But you start looking at Baylor being a number 2, you got Iowa State being a number 3, and you got BYU being a number 4, Texas Tech being a number 5 seed. So you're looking at all these teams that are coming out of the Big 12, and you're like, man, Coach Terry was 100% on point when you start to think about how many teams have had that kind of run. Texas, TCU, and Oklahoma are now looking as number 9 seeds in the bracketology. So what would you think in that moment if Texas ended up playing Gonzaga? I already know your answer, but you can't lose the faith. It's about the timing. But if they go in and win 2 more games, they may change where their seed is as well.
Good.
So you got to hope that that's what ends up happening for the Texas Longhorns. Hour number 1 is in the books. Right around the corner is hour number 2. Texas football camps are about to open. And the size of the players was a big story over the weekend. We're just going to get started for hour number 2. Don't go anywhere. And we'll be right back here on the Hardge Knocks Life on Sports Radio, AM 1300, The Zone. Welcome back to the hour number 2 of the Hardge Knocks Life right here on Sports Radio AM 1300 The Zone. I am your host, Mike Hardball Hardge. Shannon B. Sweeney sitting across from me as we bring you the Hardge Knocks Life. Hour number 1, we talked a lot about the NFL. There's a lot of moves that were being made in the quarterback position. Make sure you get over to AM 1300 The Zone on Twitter and cast your vote for which quarterback got the best deal done. Obviously, Baker Mayfield's going to get that money, so that makes a lot to him. Baker Mayfield re-signs with Tampa Bay. Russell Wilson is assumed to be signing with Pittsburgh. And Mac Jones. Who? Mac Jones got traded to the Jacksonville Jaguars. And we have some breaking news as Salty's friend, Mitch Morse, who has left the Buffalo Bills. Well, they told him he's got to go.
They can't afford him. That's why.
They ended up letting him go, and now he has signed a new deal with the Jacksonville Jaguars.
So do I get a black jersey or do I get the teal jersey?
I think the black is always a good one to get.
But I got those blue eyes hard. I feel like the
Oh
teal
my
might
God.
make me look really pretty.
Well, that is up to you.
Okay.
And so if that's the way you want to go with that, then I'm all for it. Do your thing. But congratulations to him. You and I have been texting over the weekend. Every time I saw a report, I was like, is he going to go there? Is he going to go there? And you told me that the Eagles and who else reached out to him? The Commanders. Yeah. And he was like, nah, I'm good.
We didn't see any reports about those meetings happening. So we can let people think what they want.
Right. So now the deal is done. Jacksonville Jaguars. He will now be going to Jacksonville with Mac Jones, with Trevor Lawrence. And my thought as one of the best coaches to help a quarterback and decide what's going to happen there with Doug Peterson. But I wanted to talk, since we're talking football, I wanted to talk about the Texas Longhorns as they get ready to start football camp here. We're just a few days away from the University of Texas starting their football camp. And there's a lot of news that have been coming out about the Texas Longhorn football team, and most importantly, the size of the players. The offseason, you already know, this is the time where they start to bulk up. They're lifting like crazy. They're doing everything they can possibly do to show that they're ready for the football season. Well, the news came out yesterday or over the weekend about some of the sizes of these players. Anthony Hill, we'll start at the very top. Anthony Hill is now 6'3", 243 pounds at linebacker. Now, this was a freshman All-American flying all over the field, making big plays. And he is putting that kind of size on that quickly. That is going to be an absolute monster. We've had Derek Johnson come on and talk about him, and I'll even have Derek come on again and kind of talk about the sizes of these guys. Last year, he was 234. He was 234, so he's already put on 10 pounds. Another player that has put on some weight is Quinn Ewers. Quinn Ewers put on 10 pounds of muscle. I saw him at the baseball game, and I was like, dang, he looked a little bit bigger. Yeah, he is. Remember last year, he lost all the weight because he stopped eating Chick-fil-A. He said he was done eating Chick-fil-A. Well, I guess he decided he was going to eat some more Chick-fil-A.
Did he get an NIL deal with Canes? What stop eating Chick-fil-A?
Yeah, so he's over there eating. Derek Williams, the free safety, he's gotten bigger. Justice Finkley is now 248. Jonte Cook, wide receiver, he's up to 194. So these guys are putting on some serious weight. The one guy that everybody has been talking about, and it's kind of funny, is the young offensive lineman, or I think he's offensive lineman, Kirkland. He is huge. He is huge. And you know who else is big? Sadir Mitchell, the defensive tackle. Sadir Mitchell, number 90, is 6'6", 372 pounds. The beautiful part about that, he's been the exact same weight since he's been at the University of Texas. My man hadn't lost no weight since he's been at the University of Texas. I'm impressed by that. 372 pounds. My man has been consistent. Colton Vosick, he's gotten better. bigger, and so has Ethan Burke. These guys have put on that football good weight.
Yeah, David Gabinda and Vernon Broughton.
Yep.
Both more than 16 pounds that they've put on since last year.
It's
I
a
wish my
beautiful
body
thing.
was celebrated that way.
Yeah, it's
Hey,
not.
Shane, I see you've been through football season. You look a little different.
Well, the thing about it, Salty, you would be
Good for you.
You'll be ripped up. You'd be ripped up like these guys. These
Just trying
guys
to
are
lose like a couple pounds, and I can't even do that. And they're like, "Oh, we're gonna cut weight. We're gonna lose about 20 pounds in the next 2 weeks."
Yeah, Vernon Broughton is up to 307. That's big for him. And you start looking at some of these guys and what they've been able to bring to the table. This is a big, big move for a lot of these football players at the University of Texas. I've been very impressed with the weight program. And I told you, Salty, during last week when we were talking about the combine, who was the biggest winners in the combine. Everybody wants to talk about Xavier Worthy and his number or what he ran there. But to me, it's not been about him. It has not been about him. It's been more about Coach Sark and Torrey Beckton, the strength and conditioning coach.
Because the light that was shown on Xavier Worthy and company who attended is now shining brighter on this organization at the University of Texas and these guys that we're talking about that are getting bigger and stronger in the offseason.
Right. And that's what it's all about, because you're starting to see the development. That's been the main thing that we've talked about at this university for a long time, is what are we doing to develop these guys? And what they've been able to do during this offseason has been just that. They've been developing guys and looking to get better. We talked also about the wide receiver room. How fast is it going to be? Are they going to get better? And you would have to believe, yes, they are one of the better wide receiver rooms in the country, not just because of the talent that they brought in. I'm talking about from the transfers, but the guys that have been here the entire time. You look at a Ryan Niblett who can go. You look at DeAndre Moore and Jonte Cook, big-time players. But then you also look at Ryan Wingo, one of the top recruits in the nation, and Parker Livingston, another guy from the state of Texas that can fly. And everybody wants to compare him to Jordan Shipley. Don't do that. Don't do that. Let that man get on campus and start to play. This just because he's a white wide receiver, don't make him a Shipley. What about what's that one kid that ended up leaving? Smith.
Oh yeah,
Jake Smith.
Jake Smith.
Yeah, why not
USC.
him? Why not put him in there? Let's go there. Well, because he ended up leaving. And I don't even know if he
barely playing.
I was going to say, I don't even know if he ended up playing at USC at all either. But you start to look at what Texas is building, the strength and conditioning program, the fact that 11 guys went to the NFL Combine, and the news coming out of the Combine is that every Longhorn showed well. So the opportunities for the University of Texas are starting to open up. The other thing you want to start looking at is on the defensive side of the ball. You've got some guys that have transferred in. You got Anthony Hill Jr., who is an absolute monster, and I predict that he will be an All-American and be up for a bunch of awards here shortly. But you also got Trey Moore, who transferred in from UTSA. He's a guy that everybody was waiting for. And what has Texas struggled with? Getting pressure on the quarterback. We apply the pressure, but we haven't been able to bring them down. So bringing in a guy like that and putting him in with a great recruit like Colin Simmons, that's the guys that I was talking about and that I can't wait to see. We're just getting started with hour number 2 of the Hard Knocks Live. When we come back, Vic Schaefer. They got a big matchup today as they get ready to take on K-State. We'll hear from Vic after that big victory against KU. Don't go anywhere. The Hard Knocks Life rolls on.
Want to send a message to Hardge and Salty? Text the word Texas, followed by your message to 81530. Standard data and message rates may apply. Now back to the Hardge Knocks Life on Sports Radio, AM 1300, The Zone.
Welcome back to the Hardge Knocks Life. That's right here on Sports Radio, AM 1300, The Zone. Mike Harbaugh, Hardge, Shannon B. Sweeney, and Salty. The Texas women's basketball team, they had a couple days off. They
No
had some
days off.
time.
What are you talking
They
about?
had some time off, and they didn't get the chance to play in the tournament until yesterday or Saturday. And once again, Vic Schaefer's basketball team, they are 28-4 after their 76-60 win over Kansas. And of course, you know as well as I do, when you're in the tournament, anything goes, anything can happen, and you expect a lot out of your basketball team. A lot of times, you don't get that scouting report that you're always looking for. You don't get that moment to where it's like, all right, we got our time in, we got to do this, we got to do that. The entire game plan kind of changes as the game goes along. But the Texas Longhorn basketball team, women's basketball team, has done a great job all season long of being very, very competitive, no matter the situation. They are always prepared. And you start to look at what this team was able to do. The impressive part for me this time is the victory came without them being a good three-point shooting team. You know, I told you the other day when I was at Tarleton State, I did the Tarleton State-Utah Valley game, and Utah Valley won the game. They were 0 for 12 from three-point range. And you start looking at how do you compete in those moments. Texas was 2 of 8 from three-point land, shooting 25%. They got to the free throw line 25 times. That means they were working inside out and not really trying to shoot a lot of three-pointers. The one thing Coach Vic did say that they need to get better at, they got to get better at their free throw shooting. That's going to cost you late in the game as you continue to get into these tournaments. But after the game, Vic Schaefer addressed the media, and he couldn't stop praising Kansas, but of course his basketball team as well.
Okay. Just want to congratulate Brandon and Kansas, his kids. They're obviously an NCAA tournament team, and wish them the very best. Thought they played really well today. It didn't matter. I mean, we've been getting ready for them for 4 days now. Doesn't matter how much you get ready for Kerskeeter. She still makes threes. She made 4 out of 6. Didn't matter how much we got ready for Samaya. She's still playing like the first team all Big 12 player that she is. It doesn't matter how far you back off of Franklin. She still gets by you, and she's left-handed, and she still gets by you going left. And it was frustrating, you know, for us defensively, just because we felt like we had to do a few things to kind of take away some of the things they're really good at, and we struggled doing that at times. We held them with 38% field goal percentage defense, which isn't bad for us. We'll take that probably every night. The 3-point field goal percentage is disturbing at 46, but we fouled them so bad the first half. They were 10 for 11 at half, and we only put them on there 7 times in the second half. So we made a good adjustment there. We've got to make free throws. We were 16 for 25, but 28-point fourth quarter obviously was probably the difference. As I told Shay Holly, it's a whole lot easier coaching this game when you got a guard that can make a shot. And she made 2 big threes for us, made a shot in the lane for us. I think she went on an 8-0 run by herself. And, you know, Booker had some really good looks in the first half, and they just didn't go. But I don't want her not taking those shots. Like, we were 5 for 19 in the second quarter, and every shot we got was really good. So proud of these kids, you know. They just continue to fight and compete, find a way to win. Kansas is really good. That's probably the hottest team in the country. I mean, they've won 9 out of 10, I think. You know, some great wins. Again, I think the world of Brandon. I think he's a hell of a coach. And that's a really good win for us. And to play that well down the stretch in the fourth quarter, again, we feel like that's our time. When it gets hard, and it was hard today from the get-go, I thought. And when it gets hard, that's when it's about right for us. So we're going to give God the glory for number 28.
number 28.
Yep.
As we were talking about, 28-4. This is a basketball team.
That Vic stands for victory.
Exactly. And you start thinking about, like he said, Shea Holly. She comes up big. There were some games where Shea Holly didn't even score, and she was able to play good defense. And he always talks about there's other ways to affect the basketball game besides scoring. But when they needed her to score, she was able to knock down shots, which was a huge part of the success. The 2 3-pointers that they made, she made. And the other part of it, like he said, the fourth quarter, he feels like that's their time. Well, they were 28-17 in the fourth quarter. That's where the separation happened, because before it was 19-12 at halftime. I mean, at the end of the first quarter, and then they had outscored 17-15 in the second. So it's a tough run, and the games are going to get a little bit tighter as we move on. That today they take on K-State. You can listen to that game on 103.1 or right here on AM 1300 The Zone, or you can watch the game on ESPN2 this afternoon as they take on K-State, a team that they've had some knockdown, drag-out battles with throughout conference play. So to me, Salty, I'm looking for Madison Booker to really get going in this game this afternoon.
Yeah, but like you said, she played 40 minutes in that game.
40 minutes.
If I'm not mistaken, if they win today, they play tomorrow.
Yep,
That's a tight turnaround.
Yep.
We don't want to gas them out too much, so we need everybody else to step up too to give them a bit of a breather.
No doubt. The winner of the Oklahoma and Iowa State game takes on the winner of the Texas and K-State game tomorrow night, 8:00 on ESPN2 as well. So I'm looking for a rematch. I want to see a rematch of Oklahoma and Texas. Both of the teams have been going back and forth. It came down to that last game in Norman, where both of the teams were battling each other, and Texas looked like they had that game won. And then at the very end of the game, Oklahoma ends up getting a big shot to win it, but they have to take care of K-State first before they can even get to Oklahoma. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited to see what this team is going to be able to do and who's going to step up in this particular moment for them to be at that next level. So I was watching a lot of basketball yesterday, and I'm sure we're going to talk about it here in just a little bit in the Salty Shakedown. But the women's game has grown so much with all the attention. Caitlin Clark.
Oh, yeah.
Got a chance to watch her play in the Big 10 championship. She had 4 points at halftime.
Shut her down.
She ended up scoring 30 points in the second half.
And they let her go.
And OT, and they come from behind to win to beat Nebraska. She is amazing to watch. I watched a video last night of Tim Legler. He always breaks down the NBA. Well, he got an opportunity to break down her. And the shots she makes are so unbelievable that she can play at any level, at any moment, with anybody. Her passes that she makes, the way she moves on and off the basketball, the way she sees the floor. I didn't want to give her all the props that she's been getting. I didn't. Basically, you can call me a certified hater at one point. But what she's been able to do for women's basketball, the love that she's been getting, the way that all eyes are on her when they have a chance to play, it's sort of remarkable to watch them play. And then we talk about South Carolina. They're 32-0 after their victory yesterday against LSU. Kim Mulkey and what she's been able to do with LSU in that first year of her taking over that job, and how the nation has been able to watch women's basketball. Yep. My son, my 15-year-old son, fills out a women's basketball bracket every single year. He gets more excited about that than he does about the men's bracket because of the way that all of these teams continue to compete. And that's why I say for Vic Schaefer, what he's been able to do, 28-4, has this Texas basketball team in the national conversation of possibly being a number one seed as well. Let's not forget about that. and hosting the first and second round of the NCAA tournament. This is a fun year for the last few years, actually, where women's basketball has been taken to the forefront of college athletics.
Did you see the epic photo Caitlin Clark did with the Big Ten trophy?
Oh, yeah. So she could be like
the
Kobe
moment
Yeah.
in the bathroom. Just,
That's why I'm so impressed.
Nonchalant.
Yes. And, think about this. When she was getting ready to break that record for Pistol Pete Maravich, Travis Scott went to the game. And not only was Travis Scott there, Jake from State Farm was there. There was all kinds of celebrities that have been following her.
Highest average ticket price for a women's sporting event.
Ever.
$492 average.
I mean, she's must see.
Higher watched game with like 3.2 million viewers, more so than the NBA Lakers debut this year.
Exactly. So you start to look at the women's game, and these women are so athletic, they're so skilled, and you look at what we were talking about with Madison Booker. Madison Booker played 40 minutes in this game last night, and she had 21 points, or on Saturday night, 21 points. And Vic was saying that she had great looks. People keep talking about this number because of the fact that Caitlin Clark is still playing. And she's leaving college basketball. She says she's going to the WNBA, and that's cool. She deserves it. But do you think Madison Booker, if she decided that she wanted to play all 4 years, because she got it, by the way, that was another 20-point game for Madison Booker. She's had 19 of those. Do you believe that she can make a run for that record?
Oh,
that's a lot of points.
I'm trying to find what
the average she needs to have,
or what she's looking at right now as far as her totals.
Oh, she's way. I mean, it's because it's still going. She's still going to be scoring.
Yeah.
But you have to look at what Madison Booker has been able to do as a player for this team, where she's been able to break out and score and score and score.
She's at 516 so far
this year.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow, I thought she was closer to 1,000 points already. Well, I still believe that she can get it.
What's the number we're going for?
Oh, it's continuing to grow.
That's true.
It's still growing because she's still playing. So you start to look at it and you're like, okay, all right.
Maybe not.
Yeah, maybe not.
Close.
But it's going to be fun.
Top
going to
five.
be fun. She's averaging 16.5 points a game. Yeah. I thought she was more.
You're so disappointed.
I am. I thought she was always close to 1,000. I thought she was already close to 1,000. And you've got to think too, next year she's going to move back to the 2. So she'll help with Rory Harmon. Rory will be giving her a bunch of assists. So it'll be, man.
Yeah. She started the season off with more single digit numbers. But late in this last month and a half, 2 months is when she's really been putting up the double digits and into the 20s more consistently.
Yeah, and that's why I think everybody's so impressed with what she's been able to do in her short career. But again, I'm excited for women's basketball. It's been fun to watch it. I sat and watched all the games yesterday, mixing in some men's basketball. But of course, I was checking out all the ladies as they continue to make that trek to get ready for March Madness. Speaking of March Madness, there was some March Madness that happened with LSU and South Carolina. Oh, yeah, there was some madness. And we'll talk about it in the Salty Shakedown with Shannon B. Sweeney as we come back on the Hard Knocks Life on Sports Radio, AM 1300, The Zone.
Back at it on the Hardge Knocks Live. Have your voice heard on the show by using the iHeart Radio app Talkback feature. Now, here's Mike and Shannon.
Welcome back to the Hardge Knocks Life. And you know what time it is. You hear the music. You know all about it. It's the one and only Shannon B. Sweeney with her Salty Shakedown. Take it away, Salty.
Continuing with the college women's hoops conversation, big games were had over the weekend, and the number 2 LSU Tigers versus number 1 South Carolina Gamecocks took the floor once again. This is becoming quite the rivalry, especially when you have Coach Don versus Coach Mulkey. It just creates such a unique environment, and South Carolina ultimately got the win, 79-72 for the SEC championship in that tournament. But Hardge, that's not the story. The story is what happened towards the end of the game, which was nearly a brawl. Players were pushing, shoving, getting in each other's faces. 6 players ultimately ejected, and then I believe they said that some of those players that were ejected are not going to be able to play in the first game of the NCAA tournament. So huge implications for those teams going into the rest of the postseason. And of course, as coaches do, they take the podium following the game. And we're going to let you listen to Kim Mulkey, and then we're going to let you listen to Coach Don, because they had quite different takes following that situation.
No one wants to be a part of that. No one wants to see that ugliness. But I can tell you this. I wish she would have pushed Angel Reese. Don't push a kid. You 6'8". Don't push somebody that little. That was uncalled for, in my opinion. Let those 2 girls that were jawing, let them go at it.
So Kim Mulkey's take is that she was upset that a big girl pushed a little girl.
Yeah.
And was saying we should be fighting the people of our own size.
Yeah, it's I understand. It's the old school mentality. Pick on somebody your own size. Well, I don't think a lot of people are 6'8". Are going to be able to do anything with her anyway.
Now, here we go with Coach Don, because she definitely had a different take on the situation following the game.
Fly J came to me after the game, right after the game, and she just apologized and said she's not that type of player. And I really appreciate that. It's something that somebody won't ever hear if I didn't say anything. And she's not. She's a really good person. Things just got escalated. I'll take responsibility for what happened from our side of it, which is we don't, we talk about these things as a team, and we try to, as much as possible, express to them how not to react in those type of situations. But real time is real time. And I know that, anybody, Camilla, as well as the other 4 or 5 players that were ejected, I know if they had a chance to do it all over again, they would do it differently. But now we have that. I just don't want the people who are tuning in to women's basketball see that and think, that is our game, because it isn't. Our game is a really beautiful thing. And to be quite honest, this is a part of it now. So we have to fix it and we have to move on.
Go ahead.
This is the difference, right? She could have been able to do everything she wanted to say, Kim Mulkey, that is, in a different time, in a different moment. Dawn Staley did exactly what Kim Mulkey should do, but we all know how Kim Mulkey is. She can care less about your feelings. She could care less about your thoughts. All she wants to do is coach her team and win and teach them to be tough. Dawn Staley wants these women, because now you are on the biggest stage. I just gave you a whole 10-minute rant about how beautiful the game is starting to become.
That was where I was going. What does this do for the game? Because you probably have an audience of like, oh, it's like people who like to watch NASCAR for that reason, right?
Right.
We could get this every game.
Right.
We could get chicks going at it.
Yeah.
But for the game and for the product, that's not what you want.
Yeah, agreed. You don't want that for your team. You don't want that for the product. You don't want that for the brand. You don't want that for your school. You don't want that for your players, because now they're dealing with suspensions. And during that moment, Angel Reese walked the other way during that moment. Now, I understand you got to be smart about it, but she wasn't trying to stop any of her players from going away. So it's a tight rope to run.
And we'll see what implications that has on the NCAA tournament with those players that have been suspended for the first round. Keeping it with basketball, Hardge, Rudy Gobert. Every time he finds himself with a headline, it's typically not that great. Of course, he will forever be remembered as the guy touching all the microphones, joking about COVID-19 just before the world shut down. Well, now he's in the headlines again because he has been fined $100,000. He fouled out and then gave a money dollar sign gesture to the refs. And I guess that implication of y'all are being paid, y'all are making money on this, that, and the other. They did lose to Cleveland on that night, 113-104, but $100,000, Hardge, for a money sign.
Yeah, well, he said he got the money, so they were like, let me have some of that money.
Well, yeah, you got money,
You brought
we'll
that
take
on
it.
yourself. You should have got to be smart, man.
Oh,
you got to be smarter
that's
than that.
why.
Got to be more
yeah,
careful.
keep your hands to yourself, especially when you're being fouled out for not keeping your hands to yourself. Finally, Hardge, moving it over to the mound. The Savannah Bananas have taken over the world of entertainment / baseball, and they sold out their first stadium. They've been playing kind of, AAA stadiums here and there, but they sold out Minute Maid Park over the weekend in Houston, and it was an exciting time. Nothing more exciting than when 7-time Cy Young Award winner and 61-year-old Roger Clemens took the mound in full Savannah Bananas uniform, where he pitched for the first time on an MLB mound since 2007. There was a crowd of 41,000 people. He gave up 3 hits, including a home run, and he retired 1 batter against the rival Party Animals. But we've kind of talked about them here and there, but I mean, they're really starting to blow up, and they're getting a lot of attention of celebrities, how they bring them out to games and do a lot of fun things with them. What are your thoughts on the Savannah Bananas and what they are or maybe not doing for the game of baseball?
I'm going to be 1,000% honest with you.
Be honest.
I've not watched one bit of the Savannah Bananas.
It's because you just got on TikTok.
Well,
not even on their page.
Not even just for that. I just, it's a gimmick, right? It's like the king in his court.
They're the Globetrotters.
Yeah, that's what they are. And I think it's great because of the people, like, to your point, the people that they've brought out to be a part of it. But I haven't had one moment or one inclination of watching it. And the funny part about it, I see people that I know that have traveled to go and watch them, and they said it's the greatest thing. But it's just something that I've never really bought into. I don't know.
You're not a Broadway guy, huh?
No.
'Cause they do a lot of dancing and show tuning, and they brought out a Backstreet Boy once, and he sang his own walk-up song before he went to the plate.
Who was it?
Brian Luttrell.
Oh,
little
really?
one. Yeah.
Okay. No, I just don't have anything for it. I hadn't paid much attention to it. I know who they are. I would have been a part of it. I would have done it.
Would you have thought back in 2007 when Roger last played in the MLB and said next time he's on the mound, it's going to be in Houston, but it's going to be for a show entertainment version of baseball?
Yeah.
And it's going to be a Bananas uniform?
That was impressive. I'm glad to see it. I'm glad he got a chance to go out there. And the fact, too, that he was excited to be a part of it all.
Yeah.
So for him to be out there, and he was wearing Texas spikes, by the way.
He was, yeah. He made sure
Texas Longhorn
to show out.
spikes.
It definitely clashed, though, with that yellow uniform. But there it is today's Salty Shakedown. Roger Clemens makes an appearance at the Minute Maid Dome for the Houston Astros as part of the Savannah Bananas. Rudy Gobert fined $100,000 for a simple money gesture to the referees after they fouled him out of a game. And women's college basketball gets rough between LSU and South Carolina at the SEC championship.
Yeah, there's definitely a way to go about it, but I'm all about Team Dawn Staley. She's done an unbelievable job. And just so you know, in the last 3 seasons, they're going into the tournament 32-0, 16-0 in SEC play. For the last 3 seasons, they're 103-3. Come on now. That's one hell of a coach right there in South Carolina. We got one more segment before we send you off to Dan Patrick right here on the Hard Knocks Life on Sports Radio, AM 1300, The Zone.
We're back to the Hardge Knocks Live on Sports Radio AM 1300 The Zone with Hardge and Salty. Follow the crew on Twitter at Mike Hardball Hardge and at Shannon B. Sweeney.
What a show today. Great way to start off your Monday is listening to the Hardge Knocks Live. And if you missed any part of the show, go to our podcast page wherever you get your podcasts, whether it's on iHeart, Spotify, wherever you're at, Apple, wherever you're listening to it, make sure you download it and tell five friends to tell five friends.
Hardge, the iHeart Podcast Awards are tonight. I think it was a mistake that we were left off the ballot. So I think our podcast is pretty good.
I think it is too, but I think we're new to the game.
Yeah,
I think the votes were already cast
Yeah.
before we started together
But if
in
you
November.
If you want to listen to the iHeart Podcast Awards, those will be on this evening right here on AM 1300 The Zone. You can listen to the women's basketball game and then check out the Podcast Awards. Because I think Mark Henry is nominated tonight.
I'm
Didn't
sure
tell
he
us?
is. I'm sure he is.
So you can cheer on Mark.
Yeah, I'm sure he is. He said he was going to come on this week, so maybe that's
He
why
has
he was
said.
waiting. Maybe that's why he's
going to
waiting.
bring in his trophy and brag.
No doubt, no doubt. I wanted to give a shout out again to Dylan Dessou as he was voted the most improved player in the Big 12 this year. Obviously, after last year's performance, how he performed in the NCAA tournament and now what he's been able to do this season. We talked about it earlier. The way that he's gone is the way that the Texas basketball team has gone. He and Max Asmith being named to the second team for the Big 12. But player of the year, Jamal Shedd, coach of the year, Kelvin Sampson, and defensive player of the year, Jamal Shedd. And we've talked about it. We played the audio of what Kelvin Sampson said after they played Texas. He said, I believe I have the best point guard in the nation, and a lot of people need to take note of that across the nation. Well, after that, obviously, he became the player of the year, defensive player of the year as well, but he's also been placed on some finalist lists for the best point guard in the nation. The young man out of Maynard, Texas, right up the road from where we are in Austin, Texas, baby, is making a name for himself and his university. Salty, as we get ready for the Big 12 tournament, the women play here on AM 1300 The Zone, 4 o'clock tip. Craig Way should be on the call. And if you're not listening on AM 1300 The Zone, you can also listen to it on 103.1 FM, where you've been listening to him pretty much all year, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
They take on K-State at 4 o'clock, but you start to get ready for the Big 12 championships for the women today, and then the men start on Wednesday. The ironic thing, both teams are playing K-State. It's gonna be a fun matchup for Texas. It's gonna be a fun matchup for the Big 12. And of course, this is where it all goes down. This is the fun time of the year where you start to get your brackets together. You start thinking about all this stuff, and you're like, okay, who is going to be the Cinderella of the year? I don't know if there is one, but I'll tell you, that's because Salty got money on that. I think I might have to put some money on U of H as well. They're a pretty exciting doggone basketball team. But of course, I'm gonna put something on the horns. I appreciate y'all tuning in. We'll be better tomorrow. And make sure you remember this. Don't believe everything you see, because even salt looks like sugar. Peace.
Yeah.